You got a kid, you want to provide for that kid, you got to do that using your skill set. And your skill set? Shazam.
All right, everybody who wants to live, put your hands in the air.
105 in pursuit, suspect.
104, I got a visual on a motorcycle.
Okay, The Place Beyond the Pines, starring the deep, emotional, fine ass
Ryan Gosling. I knew that was coming.
Oh my God!
You're not doing
coming
any,
a mile away, Korey.
You're not doing any of those gay rumors about yourself any favors.
Only for one person.
Well, at any given time,
Actually,
you're very monogamous in your gay lust.
Yeah, I think that
celebrities.
counts for something.
Sure.
Oh, I don't know. He's often cheating with Channing Tatum.
Oh,
yeah,
that's true.
That's true. Well,
he can, he can
Has he gotten too old?
He can window shop. Ryan understands.
Look, the way I look at it, if both of them meet, all of them meet actually at some point, they can all make a beautiful sandwich together.
Wait a minute, hold on.
A triple-decker dag.
Let me get my list out. Hugh Jackman, Idris Elba, Denzel Washington, Cyrus.
It's all right. I know.
Hey, you're in good company.
You had me confused. I was like, when did Hugh Jackman make his list? When you saw him with balls on his chin? Movie 40.
Oh, way before that. Oh, he had my balls on his chin way before that.
It helped him prepare for the role.
For Wolverine?
Yeah. It's called research, co-host research. No. I do have to say something about Ryan Gosling in all seriousness, though. He's beginning to be that guy that's in very contemplative, somewhat action-type movies where he does nothing but stare and beat somebody's ass, and then stare some more.
Well, actually, this whole movie is a lot of great actors replaying previous roles. I mean, you got you got Ryan Gosling as a criminal who likes to drive. You got Ben Mendelsohn as some greasy, oily scumbag, low-level petty criminal. Ray Liotta as a crooked cop. And Dane DeHaan as that loner who goes to a party and gets too drunk.
Man, that is
fucks up having sex with a girl in the upper bedroom.
Way to go, man! That's exactly what this is. It's almost like they pull these characters from other movies.
Yeah,
this is like an interdimensional movie where all these characters from other films have met each other.
Well, hey, if these guys can play those types, perfectly, then why the hell not?
No, they're good at it. I wasn't even counting that against it. It was just something I just kept noticing all through the movie.
I'm sorry. Let me change that. The typecast Beyond the Pines, because all these people have played these roles before, and they played them well, and. In this movie, I will say that it's probably taken them to more of an emotional depth. This is a 2.5-hour drama, which centers on, I guess, 2 generations of people, 3 different stories,
3 acts,
in three acts that brings everything in full circle. And for me, it's hard to. It's a long movie, so
you went in not prepared for that.
Well, I wasn't mad because I remember I turned towards, because there was a point where the movie was coming to an end to me, and then it kept going and going. I finally turned around, whispered to Leon, I said, "Wow, man, this is a long ass motherfucking movie."
Well, the end of each act feels like the end of any other given film,
right?
And you're like, "Oh no, wait, there's a lot more."
Yeah. And see, that's what I'm saying. But 2.5 hours a movie, 2 hours and I guess 20 minutes if you want to be exact.
You want to split hairs.
Yeah, if you want to, semantics and all that stuff. You get a lot of quality movie in there.
Yeah, you do.
Right. You do. You get some bang for your buck.
Yeah, well, you can't help but notice, when you see another major, star come into the last act of the story they're telling, you're like, okay, why are they throwing this guy into the last second?
You're like, oh, it's not the last second.
No, it ain't the last second at all. Yeah, it's a continuation of the story, which, I looked at it as, after watching the movie, you realize, oh, this is pretty much a story telling the legacy of, this father, the sons, and the choices that they make, throughout this whole movie.
Yeah. And I feel really, I bothered you so much in the movie, because I didn't know anything.
You're fucking around with your eyes through half the movie. I just want to slap you on the back of the neck. Go, what is wrong with you?
What?
How is he doing that?
You didn't notice how much you were rubbing your eyes?
No.
With the palms of your hands and your elbows stuck up in the air?
Why are you looking at me and not looking at the movie?
I'm trying to look at the movies, but your elbows bumping me in the temple.
Was he in your eyes?
Are you sure he wasn't crying every time Ryan Gosling was making it with Eva Mendes? Every time they had a sex scene together?
Exactly. When will he notice me? No, I didn't know that. I was wondering why you looked at me, because there's a point where a character's thrown up in the movie, and you looked at me and you said...
you that because I know you're sensitive to seeing people throw up.
Only when it's in Jackass.
Okay.
In any other movie when I know it's fake, I'm cool. For some some reason, when I know it's real vomit, that's when you get a chain reaction vomit out of me. But I looked over because I don't want to tell anybody the details of the story. I mean, you guys, I'm not stopping you, but I almost want you to go in cold and see how these actors all relate to each other, because with me not knowing anything, I was surprised at some of the people that came into the movie, because I looked at you, Leon, and I said, I sound like somebody's grandmother. Is that Bradley Cooper? You did.
Yes, Grandma.
I
like that boy. I like to see him play.
He's good. Isn't that guy from Good Friends?
Yeah, but with the movie being in 3 acts, see, I really found the first 2 acts of this movie, I found them very intriguing. I enjoyed them. I found them intense.
Absolutely.
And the director of this movie is Derek Cianfrance, C-I-A-N.
I was trying to pronounce it. I was trying to pronounce it Cian France.
Sure.
Yeah. So, he's the guy who directed Blue Valentine.
Blue Valentine. And see this, and he wrote this too. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed about Blue Valentine, because everybody loved Blue Valentine, and I wouldn't say
everybody.
Yeah. Well, I respected Blue Valentine more than I loved it. And the reason why is because it was a personal thing with me. This is a guy who writes his characters. I haven't seen any of those other movies. I don't know how many he's done other than these 2. I'm sure he's done a lot more. But with his characters, he brings his characters down to such low depths of emotion, or even depravity, or he brings these characters down to doing things that you almost despise, and then he wants you to have some sympathy for them. And at the beginning of the movie, it was hard for me to do that. Ryan Gosling in Blue Valentine actually almost got the same emotional response from me, because in Blue Valentine, even though he was a sympathetic character, I thought he was just so stupid. I couldn't feel anything for him.
I love you, but you gotta stop acting like a bitch.
Exactly. and in this movie, his character is a petty criminal who really doesn't do anything that's redeemable or ask you to like his character. But as it went on, I saw these other stories starting to interconnect with each other, and the characters coming in. That's when I really began to enjoy it. Cyrus, you've been quiet, weren't you?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's mainly because I didn't really like this movie anywhere near as much as you guys did. And I'm not even passionate in any way, one way or the other. I'm like, it was all right. I mean, I see the things you see in it. At the same time, while I agree with you, the type of characters you like to build, I thought that the actual stories were all like, well, we've seen all these stories so many times before. It just didn't feel really original. It just felt like he crammed 3, we've seen these movies so many times before, but this time it's really stretched out, and crammed them into one movie with a through line. Great performances throughout, to be sure. Really attractive people, if you're Korey. But like overall, 2 hours and 20 minutes was just way too much of a film that I didn't really come together for me.
Yeah,
I don't know. It is one of those movies where it just based on the theme of it all, it does seem very familiar. Yet at the same time, I was still very interested in all the stories. I will say the first act with Ryan Gosling is probably the strongest act of the film.
Indeed.
But I do like the fact that these are guys that are kind of like, they have to make decisions based on just where their life is going, especially with Ryan Gosling's character. He has a huge revelation that he discovers that, he has to step up to the plate and be the man he should be. Yet you know that he doesn't have the education to do that, and so he goes through drastic measures to, get what he needs to get done, and you see the consequences of that. And those consequences play out into the rest of the stories that go through. And I like that. Each consequence affected characters that you meet, as the story progresses. And they all, it's like a chain reaction of events that I actually found enjoyable until the third act. The third act definitely is the weakest. But I mean, it when it wrapped all itself up together at the end, I did find myself thinking about it.
Leon, I want to hear what you have to say. I just want to say something before I forget about consequences, because when you say consequences, people, they have a tendency to think that you've done something bad that has a negative chain reaction. And here you have to look at how bad decisions and good decisions, and sometimes just circumstances being what they are, just sometimes not having the resulted effect that you think that they would. And that's why I thought it was really cool with those first 2 acts, when you saw how Bradley Cooper's story, where he plays a cop, his life is influenced by Ryan Gosling's character, where they don't even really
know each other at all.
They don't know each other at all. They have one moment that changes both their lives and what happens later on. within another generation. But Leon, you look like you wanted to beat Cyrus' ass a little while ago, and he was saying, "I didn't like this."
No, not at all. I'm actually right there in between the both of you.
He actually trouble.
He brings up some really good points that are unignorable. I was thinking about was watching this. I was thinking about like guys like Paul McCartney and Joe Lansdale, and I know that sounds like what do they have to do with this?
They're on a new sitcom on ABC.
Please tell us.
They both have a tendency to do something that like Paul McCartney is great at having songs that started as one thing, going to something else, going to something else. Joe Lansdale will have a story that's really set on two things for two acts, and in the third act, it goes someplace different. But Paul McCartney's a musical genius. He's basically taken half songs that he wrote and just stitched them together in a way that builds it into one song. This movie, however, felt like three separate scripts that were written and like, okay, I got a beginning for this one, but not an end. I wrote this one, but it's too short. I don't know how to start this, but I know where I want it to go. And he put them together and then found a way to like link them. And so that's that definite 3-act. We can go like, okay, I like this one better than this one, but this one better than this one. And I think we all agree the third one is the weakest.
And the flaw there is that, and that's why this movie really ultimately didn't work for me, is because at the beginning of the third act, like as it starts, you're certain how it's going to end. And sure enough, it's so telegraphed, like where it's all going to come to, that a movie wants you to go, aha, but you didn't see how circular this all was. Like, yeah, dude, we totally did. It was just like the other two acts in its own way. It's too familiar to bring anything new to the table. And when you're trying to make something like this, like a big epic family sort of art-ish film like this, you do need to bring something new to the table other than just structure.
Well, what happens, I think, with each of the acts is that even the ones that are strong, they don't end strong. They just move into the next one. So finally, when it comes down to the third act, like, okay, this is where you got to have the big finish. Not only is it the weakest of the acts, but it doesn't have a big finish. As a matter of fact, I thought it had a pretty weak finish.
Yeah.
Co-host, what do you feel about that?
Hey, he already had his turn.
Okay, well if I may comment on
I thought you were waiting for me to like tell these motherfuckers.
Man, is that the look I gave you? Man, listen to this stupid ass motherfucker.
Look at these guys. Yeah.
Well, if I may elaborate on that third act, because what
I'll allow you to retort.
Yes, sir. Because I'm also kind of in between. I mean, I think we're all kind of coming to the same agreement.
We all be in between each other.
Yeah,
like mathematically, this is impossible.
This isn't fun anymore, guys. I feel really uncomfortable.
We're all just getting
like
like
one of
trade
those boxes
places.
that you fold with the corners all on top of each other.
Korey, I don't know what you started at the beginning of this review, but it's not going to end the way you want it to, all right?
Yeah, I know. Can we get some bread on this sandwich, please? But
Corey looks at our reviews like that MC Escher always descending staircase. And just,
For some reason,
spiraling.
Yeah, for some reason, I want to be the first piece of bread that you normally toss out.
you're the heel.
that part that you're talking about with the third act, because I think that we're all coming to the same agreement. I think we're picking different parts of the movie. It's so long that we can all kind of pick different parts from it that we liked and didn't like. Because that third act, to me, not only was it we finally get into the part where we enter another generation of characters, and it's what's like Dane DeHaan, and Emery Cohen from was he on Smash?
Smash? What is that?
Yeah, that's a TV show.
Oh, is he from that?
Yeah, he's from that. And
You talking about the two sons?
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
and he's
you know one of them's from Chronicle.
from Chronicle.
Right?
Yeah,
That's Dane DeHaan.
Yeah, Dane DeHaan.
He looks like a cracked out Leonardo DiCaprio.
Man, that kid, I swear to you, that kid needs to play a lizard in a movie somewhere.
He does.
or what's more, a frog or something, because that kid he just looks like, every time I look at him, he looks like somebody just picked him up out of a bucket of water.
Yeah. he needs to make like he needs to be like the Geico lizard. If they ever make a Geico movie.
Man, he could be the Geico lizard if they do like a live action movie. Well, I guess the Geico lizard is kind of live action. But that third act with these two people, man, first of all, feels too coincidental. And I just didn't believe the character. Dane DeHaan is a character I like.
I really like that actor a lot.
Emery Cohen, good actor, but he is the son of Bradley Cooper. And by the time we get to Bradley Cooper, he's playing a different kind of character than the person that he was introduced as. And he doesn't look like he would have a son at all like this kid.
Oh, as far as looking like that, they go 15 years later, Eva Mendes is the only person who's aged at all.
I know, and boy, did they age her.
Yeah.
Holy
I was
shit.
like, what the hell? This is very noticeable that they aged her and nobody else.
Bradley Cooper looked exactly the same. Bradley Cooper has so much power right now. He's like, you ain't gonna keep me from looking pretty.
Eva Mendes' husband looks exactly the same as he did before. And I know black doesn't
But
crack.
black don't crack.
but still.
Yeah, but yeah, everybody looked the same. Half the people in this movie look like their kids.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. By the way, Bradley Cooper's made my list, but that story just didn't seem convincing to me.
Right.
And there was nothing memorable in that third act. I can say something great stood out to me in those first two stories.
Mm-hmm.
There's the cinematography. In the first story, Ryan Gosling, he's a dirt bike rider or a dirt bike competitor.
He's a carnival stunt bike.
Oh, was he a stunt bike rider?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And there's a scene where he's being chased by the cops, and the cinematography, and he also robs banks. And when you see him getting away from the bank robberies, or when he's being run down by the cops, the cinematography in that is amazing.
You're absolutely right. I was a little surprised that cinematography, whoever was working on that, it seemed like he didn't work on the last two, because I mean, yeah, there's so many great shots of just, something that could have been shot by anybody else, just, because you're like, we could shoot this like the normal way, but at least, it added something to the film, but they didn't progress with that during the last two acts.
No, they didn't. And in the second act, I'm kind of a sucker for stories where people are caught up in situations that they don't know how they're going to get out of it. And Bradley Cooper is in a situation with a bunch of crooked cops, and you can see how they set him up, and the whole time it's very tense, because I'm wondering, how is this guy going to get out that third story, man? There's nothing there.
Yeah. It was because you guys are all right. I mean, and I don't want to beat this over the head, but it just with how the first two acts were dealt with, especially building up the tension. That was kind of like the fun part of those first two acts. It doesn't build it up so much, because I mean you're right, Cyrus. You do see it kind of coming a mile away. And what they do with it is like, really, I mean, because you're gearing up this whole movie for something that, like I said, the key word is consequences.
Yeah.
So you're really gearing up for that, and when it sort of just kind of peters out, you're like, it's too bad, because it could have been a really great film.
Well, the only way they want you to know or care anything about either one of these two kids is in light of what the previous two stories were and what their fathers did, which is why it's so easy to predict where it's going to go.
Exactly.
Because we really don't have anything else that's interesting about those two kids except
and the issues that they had, they really didn't seem like they needed to go that far with them. I don't understand the daddy issues that they had going on. That was almost the equivalent of whining to me.
How did that kid end up sounding like a Brooklyn gangster where everyone else
like a
around?
wigger?
He sounded like a wigger. I was trying to use that word, but he did.
Yeah, you heard of Troy?
Yeah, I've heard of Troy.
Where's Troy at?
Right next door, dude.
Right next door.
I would have guessed you were from Long Island.
Where's that?
It's where people that talk like you come from.
B. I'm bored as a mother. I'm here, dude. I've been here for like 3 days. I'm bored out of it. Mine.
Oh, welcome disconnected.
What you dudes do for fun? Nothing? This is it? This is what I got for a year?
No, we got some things.
What? Don't say like a mall. If you say on me, like, I swear to God.
No one else around him talked that way, including
Exactly.
his dad.
That had me scratching my head. That was kind
Bradley
of a bad
Cooper's
part.
son. I know they tell you Bradley Cooper he was not there, and that's the Emery Cohen actor that we're talking about. We know that he wasn't there for his son, but
Yeah,
God, did he take his son in a basket and drop him off at a doorstep full of rappers and run? Black rappers, that is.
But it's like his mom was like, "You got to take him. I can't take this shit no more."
Even his mom, who's played by
Rose Byrne.
Rose Byrne. The kid is white, but his mom came up to Bradley Cooper and said, "You got to get this nigga out my house today."
You want to know what, though? The more I think about how this kid was acting, like the whole wigger aspect, I've met some wiggers where you're like, why are you acting this way when your parents are rich? You got everything you want. What are you rebelling against?
If this was a movie that wasn't trying to be as heavily dramatic and emotional as it is, I might have bought that character.
Yeah, but you can't. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, it wasn't like I was like, okay, isolated. I don't think he's necessarily giving a bad performance. He probably sounds nothing like this.
Yeah.
But in this movie, it doesn't fit, and it's noticeable.
It's absurd.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
One thing before I forget, I really wanted to mention how much much I really loved the soundtrack. And watching the movie, I was like, who the hell did this? And I looked it up and I realized Mike Patton from
that's
Faith.
right.
Yeah,
Mike Patton did the music for
Faith
this?
No
Yeah,
More,
they showed that when it
Tomahawk.
first
It's
came
a
out.
really startlingly good soundtrack.
Yeah, it was. I was like blown away. I hope he does more.
Mike Patton, the next Danny Elfman.
That's right.
He went from
That'd be weird though.
Yeah, he went from screaming in I Am Legend to because he's the guy that did all the screaming and people don't know.
Crazy
doing all that shit.
Yeah, monster voice.
Yeah. You know what? I really want to give this movie a full price because, like I said, there's a lot of good movie here, but I don't know if it's fair to judge a movie just based on how long it is and how much movie they put in there. Because when you have a whole third act of story, and that's where and especially when that's the lasting impression that you have of the movie, I don't think it does it does service to the first two films. But
you're rating this on a super big gulp scale. Now with 30% more.
Did you hear what you did there? You know you fucked up, right?
What did I do?
You didn't hear what you did? You said it's not as the first two movies. You didn't say the first two acts. The first two movies.
But you know what?
It is.
No.
It is. It's three movies.
No, that's why I did not mess up because maybe I did mean that.
Yeah.
But maybe I did because it's a long movie. They might as well be two self-encompassed films.
I think Corey's trying to use reverse psychology right now, but it's not working.
Yeah. No. It's a lot of interesting things in there. I don't think you waste your time if you go see it at the theater. I actually think it's very enjoyable. Even the third act, for as lame as I think it is compared to the other two, I think there's something interesting in there for people who see it. Overall, if you take the whole package, I think it's a high matinee. I want to give it a full price, but yeah.
Well done, Corey.
Thank you.
I'm kind of there with you where I'd like to give it a full price because those first two acts are really great, or they're almost great. I mean, there's no getting around the fact that there is that third act. And I can ignore it, except that third act curtails what could have been the great ending to those other two. And that ending that those other two stories need is not there. You go into the third act, and honestly, it could have been taken out altogether. It could have ended with, what Bradley Cooper, what happens with him right before you get
If I may ask you, though, one of the things that I was afraid of with that second story is that I thought it was going to come to an end, and then that's what I felt like. They don't have a good ending for this.
Well,
as much as I like that second story.
Sure, but that ending would have been better than what they ended up with.
Okay, I'll take that.
I mean, it's enough. And plus, it's that all that extra time you're asking your audience, hey, please sit there and listen to what I have to tell you. And it's like, man, you know what? I would have liked you better, but you made me. I missed the restaurant. It closed now because I sat here listening to you for this bullshit. It takes it down from being a full price to a low matinee.
Okay.
I'm glad it's continuing to descend because I'm actually going to go even a little bit lower. And the thing about this film is I love the cinematography, especially in the first half, but all the way through. Even in the third act, there's some really good stuff with that. I think the soundtrack is, I mean, like I said, it's stunning. I'm gonna go buy it or whatever.
Steal it? What are the
Ships
options?
ahoy, matey!
And I think the performances are on the whole really good, except for, of course, young Mr. Wigger, which is just probably not as fun.
I love that show, man.
Yeah. He was
Nick
obviously-
Jr., right?
I mean, there's no way he came up brought that to the table himself. Hey, what if I play this character like this? And they went, yeah, sure. No, obviously someone told him to do that. So for shame. But see, I didn't like the second act as much as you guys did. I thought that was where it really started to fall apart for me because that's the story in it. That's the oldest story of any of them. And we usually like those. Cop being pulled into the corruption or even gangster being pulled into the corruption, whatever it is. But it didn't feel like it did anything new except the way it turned at the very end of it. And, I mean, for Christ's sakes, it's so familiar. Even Ray Liotta is one of the crooked cops.
I know.
As if to hammer it over the head. You may have seen this before.
Man, you know what? It's funny. When he showed up at Bradley Cooper's door, before he said a word, you said, man, that's a crooked cop.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't even have to talk. He just needs to be there.
The biggest curse of this film, though, is just that 2 hours and 20 minutes is just way, way too much of it. I was so ready for this to be over when it was over, squirming in my seat, come on!
This is true. I was sitting right next to him.
Which is why I'm going to give this a high rental. I mean, I do think it's worth seeing, but man, just wait to see it at home.
All right.
You
Even
can
though I
pause
know
it.
you started positive with co-host, now that it's descending, he's going to give us some more bullshit.
Ain't descending. No, I'm gonna raise up the water level here.
Oh, you were the phoenix of this review.
Yes, straight from the fire of Lake Cyrus. No, I mean, like, the first 2 acts of this movie really did, like, I mean, just I love those type of stories. I love stories about fathers and their sons because that's something I can relate to, especially not having a father. But yeah, I mean,
his father was a can opener.
He's
never seen him again.
Damn you guys. But yeah, I mean, it suffers from the third act, like we all said. But still, I mean, I found the acting really great. It's a shame that Ryan Gosling has announced that he's going to take a break from acting for a while.
Did he really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You haven't heard that? Yeah.
He hasn't even really been on the scene that long.
Well, if you heard the guy screaming throughout the whole movie, I was like, maybe he's working on his voice because everything's like, put the gun in your mouth! It's like he was like losing. I know he was like losing. I couldn't tell. I was like, is his balls dropping or what's going on?
Maybe
here?
that suit he was wearing was too tight.
I know. Right. It's like, man, you're holding on to that motorcycle too tight, buddy, between the legs.
I can't understand what you're saying. What do you want me to do?
But yeah, I mean, the really great, strong performances. But it really had the potential to be something great, and it didn't go there. So yeah, it's a matinee for me. I was really hoping that this was going to be a full price just because I liked it.
Yeah,
that much.
And don't feel sad about Ryan Gosling retiring from acting because the good news is we're eloping.
Well, he's got to retire because Korey's not going to quit working. Somebody's going to watch the kid.
Be mad at you if that wasn't true.
I'm Officer DeLuca. We're here to search your house.
What for?
We're looking for the money that Luke Glanton may or may not have given to you.
14 grand.
The lion's share is going to our hero.
This is your problem. This is our problem, and I'm bringing it to your attention because that's what I should do.
I want to do 2 in one day.
Yo, get up!
I'm not going to let you bring us both down.
There's a way out of this. You're not going to like it.